Today is May 6th, 2016. We're here today with Alice Schneider, and she has graciously offered to tell us some Whitley County history for our Whitley County Oral History project at the Peabody Public Library. My name is Deb Lawrence, and we're going to get going then. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for agreeing to tell us some about Whitley County.
I hope it helps some way.
Oh, I'm sure it will. You live at Tri-Lakes.
Yes, right
And
here.
how long have you lived here?
Since 1953.
1953. In this same house?
In an old house, we had it torn down, and we built this, what was it, in 87? I think 87.
I don't know, we talked about it
Yeah,
last night, 84, 85, 86.
It's 87.
Okay, so are you then a native of Whitley County?
Yes, born in Columbia City.
In Columbia City? And where did you grow up?
On North Chauncey Street all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, just...
On Silk Stocking Row? Of the brick part of North Chauncey Street?
It was 358 North Chauncey. I was born. That was my grandparents up on the corner of North and Chauncey Street.
Oh, okay.
And then when I was 4 years old, we moved from there down a half a block to the other side of the street and lived there till I got married.
Wow.
So, you know.
So where did you go to school then?
At the West Ward in
Yep.
Columbia City High School.
And at that point, Columbia City High School was there on Walnut Street, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I haven't been down there, so I don't know what it looks like. It's probably,
It's pretty different.
I haven't been downtown around Columbia City for a while. Seems
Okay.
like we head off for Fort Wayne or
Mm-hmm.
Huntington. Maybe we go through there and then, or to Warsaw. But
Mm-hmm. So what kind of activities did you do in school? Were there after-school clubs or?
well, I don't know. I participated in some of the sports stuff, and in the grade school, basketball and stuff. Have some pictures in the old reflectors,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing important.
Oh, it was important to you. So then after high school, did you go on to college or?
No. I was a mid-year student, and I was out of school at Christmas time,
Mhm.
and in that meantime, I went to Texas and got married.
Ah.
Thinking, we'd go back and, you'd graduate in the spring,
Mm-hmm.
and then never did. And I don't regret it, really. Everything is, of course, it wouldn't be that way for everyone, but my life has been just wonderful.
Well, good.
And I haven't had all that education.
So after you got married then, did you work outside the home or were you just a homemaker? I'm not going to say just a homemaker because that's nothing like that.
No.
But did you raise children and?
Yes, I was just really just a homemaker. I'm not saying a housekeeper, I'm saying a homemaker.
There you go.
Because that was just what it was. And when I was 4 years old, my grandmother took me downtown,
Mhm.
Columbia City, probably to go to the grocery, and a doctor was out raking his yard or something. We stopped to talk, and he asked me, he says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And of all things, at 4 years, a mommy.
Oh, well, wonderful.
And I thought, I keep thinking, God. And then when I was in the first grade, in the reflector, it said something about, they asked what I wanted to be. Well, I wanted to work in the five and dime store, so I didn't have, I was just, just who I am today, just.
Well,
plain.
good. And how many children do you have?
I have three.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra, Kara's mother, and then a son, Berlin, he lives in Roanoke, and another son, Michael, lives in Columbia City.
So they're all still real close around
Yeah,
you then.
they just came last night, and Kara too, and her fiance, and we had a birthday supper for my youngest son. He usually comes on Thursday night anyhow, and so we just called it a birthday.
That's very cool. So after you had graduated and went to Texas and got married, and evidently your husband decided that this was a good enough place to stay.
Well, we was at, when he was in the Army.
Oh, he was in the Army,
So
okay.
we were stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland. and stuff, and he could have stayed in, but we decided to come on back home, you know.
Now, where, when you set up housekeeping, where was that?
Well, while he was in the Army and I was married, that was in February 3rd. And then he got out of the Army, it must have been, the next spring or something. But I stayed at my mother's while he was there. And then we bought a new house down in South Whitley. And it was when houses were hard to find, you know, they weren't new houses or anything, but Naylor was building houses down. I think, I don't know, I don't know what he was, an auditor or something, I don't know. Anyway, so we got our first house down there, and Glenn was a meat cutter down at Waybright. I guess it was Ben Waybright. There was a grocery down there.
In South Whitley?
He worked there, but when he went to the Army, he worked at Weatherhead, you know.
Oh, okay.
And so that job was waiting for him when he came home, thank goodness. So when we got home, he worked there, and then we moved to South Whitley, and then when he was laid off at Weatherhead one time, he started to work in to be a butcher down there, or a meat cutter, and they put him through the veterans, you know, to learn to be a meat cutter.
Okay.
So then he did that, and then he went back to the Weatherhead and worked there. I don't know.
So while you were bringing up your children and everything, where would you go shopping?
In Columbia City and stuff. It was a long time ago. When we were first married, there wasn't any malls. You know, and everything you walked everywhere in Columbia City.
Oh yeah.
They had neighborhood groceries sometimes, you know, in different parts.
Oh, not just downtown.
But you'd have to, you know, if you wanted something, you know, you would walk downtown, and everything is so weird, you know. It's just like a different time. You know?
Do you remember some of your favorite stores?
Oh, well, my grandmother used to take me down. But yeah, the Janssen's grocery store, I remember the name of Janssen, and Schreiner's grocery, maybe that had something to do with Schreiner Lake over here.
Oh,
know,
could be.
You know, and I just remember they'd have to measure everything out, and they would have to get your groceries off of the wall or something, and you know, I just don't know how people. And even when we were first married and got home, and we were still living at my mother's, I'd walk down to the butcher shop downtown, you know, Binders, I guess it was called.
Okay.
Binders. And you'd pick out your meat and stuff, and I think, oh my heavens, you know, everything is so stupid. You just go to the supermarket and everything's there. And I remember looking in their case, and it says, you know, and it looked so good, and I thought it was pork chops. Happened to be lamb chops.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, those are so pink. That would be really good. So I go back up there, and when I thought, I don't like the taste of these. So that was my first thinking of that. But everything was so different. And just one day at a time. But things change, and they've been changing, and they're still changing.
Sure.
But when I look back, I think, wow, we didn't think much of it. It was progressing. And now it's got to the point that everything is so different that you wonder how it can get any better, or
Sure.
how they're changing all the time.
Sure.
But anyway, it's just been a trip. And I think of my age, everybody should live this way, because then they don't they know what life's all about by the time, what it takes to get to 80. You know, and I think of the people, you know, that don't even make it to that.
Sure.
And I'm waiting for the 90 here in December.
Oh, good on you.
My birthday is on Christmas Day,
Ah.
and I was born in 1926. And so that's my goal now.
Oh, I'm sure you'll make it.
And it'll be half through in June.
There you go.
25th of June, so I think, oh wow, you know, and then I think, well, I'm gonna now keep on to 100.
Good. We'll be
And
back to
and
interview you
My
again.
mother's oldest sister lived to be almost, I don't think she was quite 103.
Wow.
She always lived in, she lived in Larwell.
Mm-hmm.
And then when her husband died, her daughter moved her to California.
Oh my.
When he went out there to work at Lockheed Air, where they make
Mhm.
airplanes or something. So they said, no, you're not going to stay here in Larwell. We're not going to worry about you here. We're going to take you there. And so they moved her there, and they kind of looked after her, but she
Mhm.
always kind of lived on her own, even on their property. There'd be her little house or something, But then they moved from California to Arizona because they was afraid they didn't like California. And she still, my cousin still lives there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's,
So you did your grocery shopping uptown mostly. Did you make your own clothes? Did you buy clothes?
well, there was different clothing stores along the streets.
In Columbia City?
Yeah, there
Mhm.
would be. There was a couple of places where you could buy clothing, and there was a jewelry store, and there was groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a movie
The theater?
down there, where the bank is, Star Bank is.
Mm-hmm.
And my granddad and my dad, they would kind of take care of that. They plastered in there, and they, did a lot of the
Oh.
work, and they helped plaster a lot of the Mauritius homes and stuff.
Oh,
Because they
okay.
were known pretty good for that. And they would just have to take a wheelbarrow and stuff and go from Chauncey Street and work together, my dad and his dad.
Wow.
And they would just, I don't know how people did it.
Yeah, without automobiles.
Yeah,
or-
without, and I seems like I knew everybody on every street, but it's just the boundaries of Columbia City.
Mhm.
And you had to walk.
And of course the 30 bypass wasn't out there
Oh, no.
at that point.
That
so
was country.
right.
Yeah, and 30 was out south,
Mm-hmm. What's
Over by
Lincoln
the
Way now?
railroad
What they
and
call
out
Lincoln
that
Way,
way, yeah.
Business 30. Yeah.
Yeah. And what else? And McDonald's wasn't out, there was
Mhm.
nothing out this way. This was country.
Mm-hmm.
But McDonald's, I think they bought the property that my brother-in-law, well, it was her property before because he married her,
Mm-hmm.
But that's where McDonald's was, a place out there.
Oh, really?
And I remember they called me. They couldn't get in touch with them, and they was trying to buy that, and
Mhm.
when things was changing, and so they, got in touch with me some way, and I shouldn't have, but I did give them their number that nobody else knew, so they could negotiate. And part of that property was across where the highway is now, and the other, and so that
Oh.
everything changed. But anyway, they bought their house. They sold that property out there, and that house was moved to over there on 105.
Oh, they moved the house. They didn't just tear it
109,
down. They
109. So they moved their house there, but they bought a different house, that-
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. It's such a.
So, after you were married, what kind of activities did you and your family do? Were there celebrations in town, like for Christmas or Old Settlers, or?
Well, yeah, they always had the free candy and stuff. I don't know whether it was poor people or what, but we always took the kids, to get their treat.
Mhm.
And you'd have to stand in line and wait on the stairs to go up in the courthouse there to get their treats and stuff, about freeze to death.
Mm.
And that was one of the things that Columbia City did.
Mhm.
For Christmas. Easter, they had Easter egg hunts out at the park, or what's now the 4-H grounds, I guess.
Oh,
or
okay.
something. I don't know. And for 4th of July, they would always meet on the American Legion hill
Mhm.
out there, and you could watch the fireworks and stuff. I don't know. It was just nothing much of anything.
Mhm.
And
Did you go to the Old Settlers celebrations?
Yeah, the
Or
only time I missed that is when I was in the hospital at one time, and after that I really didn't care about it.
mm,
I never liked the rides. I would,
mm-hmm.
I'd like to go down there and stuff, but I just couldn't stand the Ferris wheel and stuff. And
Yeah,
and the
I think
fast
they're
rides.
scary.
Scared of everything, I guess, but I didn't like it. Of course, the kids did.
Were your kids in 4-H? Did they
I
participate?
think Sandra was at one time for
Mhm.
a while. I don't remember what she did.
Okay.
And I used to be in the 4-H. I remember baking gingerbread or something that went out there to, and the grocer that lived a half a block from where I lived, he wanted to buy that afterwards. He wanted my gingerbread. And I worked at that Northside grocery up there for a while after when Glenn was still in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted me to come while he walked over from Chauncey Street to Main Street for lunch. So I was available for that. And then I left. After that, I would go on Line Street and babysit for somebody that worked up at the courthouse. Or she had a baby. She was 30 years old and thought, nobody should have any kids till they're at least 30, she said. And anyway, I would fix her lunch or something for a while, just until Glenn got home from the Army, and then that took care of it. I didn't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But before that and after school, I worked at Flox's department store downtown.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, every paycheck I was buying everything till I didn't have any. every set of new towels or anything that came in. I was engaged then.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all my money. I don't know what I didn't have any money when it was left. But and then I got that when I was 15. I got my first working permit.
Mm-hmm.
You had to take a blood test or something to make sure that you could work around food, I guess.
Oh, really?
So, and that was in Adams's old house. I don't know whether that's still there over by where the high school is now.
Oh, yeah. It's the Community Foundation now.
Yeah, there's a brick house there.
Big brick
that's
house.
Where you had to go for that then.
Ah,
That's where I
okay.
got my permit for that, and I was 15 years old, so I could get a permit to work. And the root beer barrel had just started out. I don't think the highway was there yet.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Walter and Lena Go started that first thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was their dream, always to have a root beer barrel and drive in,
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I worked and that's where I met Glenn then. And I was only over 15 because I had just started to work. And after that was my life.
Oh, really?
That was it. And anyway,
So did you cook, or were you a car hop, or was there?
And sometimes make their tenderloin, breaded tenderloins and stuff. I'd work inside, and then they put a dance hall like on that building.
Really?
Later. And so I was still working there when we got married, and he said, "Now you get out of there. You quit there." He didn't want me to be, around other men and boys coming in. In fact, there was one from Muncie that came every time, and I got rid of him. But I don't know. It's a mixed up. I'll jump around so much.
No, you're fine. Nope, you're fine.
But it's just, and everybody in my life has ended up being touched. It seems like everything has been planned from the very beginning.
That's very
And
cool.
even numbers, I got into that when you sit and you think, and I tell you, it's almost scary. But they work,
Mm-hmm.
for my life, and it's just ridiculous, really. But
So what else can you tell us about Whitley County? What can you tell us about?
there was a bathing thing, at the would be the southeast corner of Schneider Lake over here, and before I moved out here, though, they had one of those boats, or with the wheel and stuff, and
Oh, really?
people could go. I've got all a lot of the stuff, around telling about these things. But yeah, and a bathing place where you could change your suits, and that's where people all came over there because there was a beach there.
Mm-hmm.
But then that didn't last too long, and there was a grocery and a tavern in the back of it, where the tavern is now, over here.
Oh, there was a grocery there.
There was grocery in the front of it, and then the back. Glenn and I, before we were married and just dating, we'd come out here to the lake, and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
dance hall in the back. I don't know.
Very cool.
But when I first moved out here, I was probably the youngest one around the lake, and all the neighbors was old.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Sandra started first grade out here, I was probably the youngest mother,
Wow.
I think I was 26 when she was 25, or
Mm-hmm.
ready to start school. But
So did you have trouble in the wintertime? Did you have trouble getting in and out? Or did they
Well,
keep it up pretty good?
this was bad down here in
Mm-hmm.
the winter and stuff, but I guess I survived some way. In the house that we bought out here, I was just reading the newspaper, and we were renting a house on Line Street, and Sandra was 5 years old, and going to nursery school in there, whatever it was,
Mhm.
in town. But anyway, I was reading the newspaper, and Glenn didn't think we was ready to buy anything. All the real estate people says, "Oh, Glenn, you got a good job. You can, you can buy whatever you want." But he held off, and we'd rented. And I read that in the paper, and this, I shouldn't say the price for that cottage that was here was only $3,800 and some dollars. I still got the piece out of the paper. And I was telling them last night that I had that in my jewelry box, yet I could just cut out that little thing. And we knew nothing about the lake. The only time I'd ever come to the lake would be for a church picnic or something over on Loon Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't know anything about septic tanks. We didn't know anything about the lake. And Shirley didn't know about insulation and anything like that. So we just really got an old summer cottage, and there we were. And I don't know, we just made do. There wasn't a wood stove or something, and it was an oil burner, at least had that much. But in an old pump house, and the well probably wasn't very good, and and it had been a rental, before. So I seen a sign on the mirror in the bathroom that said something about throw your dishwater out in the yard. And so
Oh my!
But, because there wasn't any drainage, there wasn't anything out here.
Oh
I don't know
boy.
what we were thinking, but anyway, we got it so cheap that.
Well, yeah.
So, and just think, that was torn down, and I just prayed that before I died, there could be a new house here. I wanted everything gone of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even a little piece of linoleum, anything. I just thought of that, and I thought, and I just sat and thought. I didn't call it prayer and praying. I was just think everything out, and I think, boy, one of these days. And it took 40 years. It took all that. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just sit here and I think of things, and I don't call them prayers, but my thoughts, and they come true, even if it takes 40 years.
Well, even if it takes 40 years.
And it's the right time. It's the right timing, really. It's not supposed to be.
Mm. Do you remember any notable people that came through town? Were you around when the White Banners, when Lloyd C. Douglas came through for the White Banners movie at the Columbia? I mean, were you around this
Now,
area?
Who would you say? Well,
Lloyd Douglas?
yeah, well, I was to everything that went on, but who is that? I can't think of one of my best friends lived there on the corner of Main and North Street, and that's a famous place. There's a thing out there in front. He was an author.
Yeah, Lloyd Douglas.
Is that who that was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in that old house there all the time with that daughter. of his.
Really?
And my goodness. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. I remember some of the books, but I never had any of these books. My mother. But anyway, yeah, I was in there all the time. There was the house was big, and they had other little sheds around. And I used to go in there with this Barbara Levac, her name was, and Dr. Soares. She was Dr. Soares' wife's sister.
Mm-hmm.
There I go. See, I get it.
It's
Because
all
I
right.
can't start. It's just one thing and then another. But anyway, and there was a shed out there that had a loft on it, and you had to walk straight up a ladder, and then you go, and God, she'd just climb up there, and it was nothing for her. And I think, oh, that last step, I didn't for, and she'd just climb around. And they had an outhouse. There was even right there on that corner. There was, and they were still living there, and they was taking baths in a laundry tub. They
Oh,
had
really?
and they had the outhouse
Mm-hmm.
in probably a building anyway. And I thought it was so funny. And I'd go down there, and they would have a catalog, and you'd have to tear the sheets off, and that was your toilet.
Oh,
paper.
my.
And that was right in town.
Mm-hmm.
And they had gas lights or kerosene lights out there, and everything in that house.
Wow.
It was kept probably like it had been when we lived there. Anyway, it was so.
And that wouldn't have been too far from you over on Chauncey
I know.
Street.
It
Yeah.
was just down the street
Huh. Isn't that something?
on the other corner,
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, I don't know. It's so crazy, and I think this and that, and when I start to jabber, everybody wants me to shut up.
No, we don't. We want you to keep talking. Okay, let's go back to when you were in school.
Okay.
What did you do after school or on weekends? Were there?
Every day after school, instead of going home, I'd go to the library.
Bless your heart.
I'd always go to the library. And then I would walk home, do my schoolwork and stuff and go to school. That's what it was, I guess. There on Chauncey Street, we lived on the alley, the first alley, And so I would go from Chauncey Street through that alley, get on Lion Street, and then walk down there and then get to school. I don't know, it was 8 blocks or what. And you'd walk home at noon, too.
Oh,
You
really?
had to walk home at noon and eat your lunch.
There was no school lunches then.
No. And so you'd walk home and then you'd have to eat and then you'd have to be back there.
Mm-hmm.
The bell would ring and you'd know if you were going to be late. You better
You better run, huh?
Yeah. It was a Mr. Smith that rang the bell all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just once I just about didn't make it. Just once. And I just don't know how they did it back then. If anybody was crippled or anything, they couldn't go to school.
Right, sure.
I know there was one ramp between the older part of the school when they put the high school light on it. There was just one ramp there. But I think you'd walk in that front door and there must have been at least, had to be more than 12 steps up
Wow.
from there. So, before you got into the main part. And they had a library in there, and if on bad days, when you couldn't walk home or something, you could have brought your lunch.
Mm.
And then you'd sit in there and eat your lunch, but that was the only time.
Mm-hmm.
And something about every morning, if you paid for it, you got graham crackers and milk.
Really?
And that was a treat. In fact, sometimes I just get up in the night and have graham crackers. I don't know what else. It's either other too sweet or salty, to eat. And it tastes really good, but it always tasted better.
At school?
I think it was the milk we kept the cream in it.
Mm.
That's before they pasteurized everything
Right.
and separated everything down to skim milk.
And then, was there any kind of a dress code at school? I mean, I'm certain that girls probably wore dresses and...
They just wore dresses. They just dressed like everybody else, but they didn't have uniforms. Or anything.
Okay. So then, on weekends, what would you do? Did you have chores at home, or...
I don't know. You just did whatever you pleased.
Boy, wouldn't that be something?
You could come and go as you wanted to. you could read books, you know, or something. I had a lot of coloring books, you know, and stuff when I was younger. Yeah, just do what you wanted. And then I'm getting hoarse.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, I was always doing something. You know, in the summertime, I was playing school between two cherry trees and up on the corner of my grandparents. They're right at the corner of there. There was two cherry trees there, and they always stacked wood for the winter in there too. So that was my schoolroom. So I was teaching everybody.
The neighborhood kids?
Oh yeah, they just came and then at the other house down there was a small room, big closet-like thing, but it had a window, 2 windows in it. And I would teach kids how to crochet, or not crochet, but embroider.
Oh.
And they would bring their just crazy. I don't know. I had 2 sisters, and I don't remember doing anything with them.
Really?
I was always out there, and after Old Settlers Day were there, I had to have my wheels. They had to come and win something. It's just crazy.
That's fun, though.
But that was just me, and then when I grew up, then I don't know. I never liked to be a joiner of anything. I wanted my life to myself to be who I was. I didn't care what anybody else did, but I didn't want to. And I couldn't have fitted in with the kids at school because after meeting Glenn when I was just starting high school, you know, that I couldn't go and do that. And then I got engaged. The day I was 16, I was engaged.
Wow.
And I heard my parents tell Glenn, no, she's too young, but he gave me a ring. And then it was on my birthday when I turned 16, and he gave me a Bulova watch for my birthday and that engagement ring.
Wow.
So I couldn't join in and go down there and have pop and dance and everything. I didn't want to. So, I don't know.
And at that time, that was a pretty hefty present.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
See, as soon as he graduated, we worked from. He was one that passed papers and stuff when he was younger.
Oh, okay.
All the time. He did that, and all his brothers did too. But anyway, he got that job at the Weatherhead, you know, and so he was working there, so he made really good money. And he had a convertible, and he had a motorcycle, paid for everything, you know.
Wow.
And it was just different. It wasn't like a young school kid, you know, my age. 4 years difference makes a difference. But anyway, things just happened, and I guess they were supposed to because nothing interfered.
So you waited until after you got out of high school to get married? Oh yeah, you said you were a half year.
I was out at Christmas time, and so I went to Texas with his mother and brother, and he was in the Army down there, and he just was getting out of what they called, what was it? I can't think now. Anyway, bivouac, I guess they call it. You know, they're for training away from the camp, you know.
Oh,
or
okay.
something. And so he didn't have. He did have the chapel down there arranged for that, but he didn't have any rings.
Oh.
So, and he just got back in time to use that chapel. I got a picture of it, the chapel, and I don't know. Anyway. So I used my engagement ring. The preacher says, well, just take your engagement and turn it around.
There you
that
go.
was that. And then there was 2 preachers there. I think one of them, I know one was a Methodist one. I got, it's on the marriage thing, but there in Texas. And the other one, I think, was a Seventh-day Adventist or something. I don't know. I know there was 2 preachers in there. And they said, no flowers, no music, no.
Oh, my.
Felt sorry for it, I think.
I guess.
And it was her, he had to do that. So, and then we went from, I guess that was in Gainesville, where we got married, and went to another place. And his mother and brother stayed at the camp, wherever we were. It's such a blur now, because I didn't care what happened to them. I was off. But anyway, we went to this place for overnight and then back. And then came back. But I remember, and it was so cold. It was February 3rd we got married. And it took a couple days down there, and so
Mm-hmm.
when we come back, it was the worst snowstorm. And I had to walk from the train station over there with my big
Oh.
old suitcase, because I was packed to live like now. I've got everything for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to lug that thing up. I came from the station up Washington Street.
Mm-hmm. And the train station's was over on Chicago Street.
Yeah, it's down there, and I had to walk there and dragging that thing. And people were out cleaning their walks off. I'd stop and talk to them until I got up. And then I came from Washington Street to Main Street, and it got through the alley and got back where I belong.
Wow.
Oh boy, it was cold, and I don't know. It's just.
Did you attend church in Columbia City?
Yes, I was baptized at the Methodist Church downtown there.
Okay.
Yeah, went every Sunday from the time I could walk. One Sunday, when I got older, I thought, I don't want to go to church. Well, I didn't go to church. I went to Sunday school. My mother, we would be coming home from Sunday school, and my mother would be going. She'd go to church. She'd have the noodles and the beef on the stove and stuff, and then we'd pass each other. And she went to church. We went to Sunday school, and I went already when the teachers weren't even there, and they'd take me to my sister's classes, and I never missed any time from all that time till I started to work at the Barrel, and I was working till midnight and stuff, and so I got out of that. And what was I talking about? Anyway, the one time that I decided I just don't think I need to go here, and I thought it was a law, I think, that you had to go to Sunday.
Oh.
I even told my preacher, I thought that, you went to school and you went to Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I just thought, I'm not going to go. Anyway, I took the papers from the week before, and I went in our garage. And my dad happened to be out there. He didn't go to church, but he had rabbits and he had chickens and gardens out there. And so he came into that garage. He said, "What are you doing in here?" And I said, I just didn't go. And I had my papers and stuff. He says, "Okay, I won't tell him, but don't you ever do this." And I don't know if he ever said anything. Nobody talked much in our family or something. You just knew what you were supposed to do, and you better do it.
Yeah. So you had animals and garden at your house growing
I'll
up.
tell you another thing. Yeah, he was one of the best gardeners around town. He even sold plants to people. They would come there and buy the plants. But anyway, we was on the alley, and the path went from the house to the garage, and on that side, on the south side, he had cabbage plants, or cabbage. He'd grow cabbage. They would save them, for the winter. Store it in the basement. That was cabbage. He'd have potatoes. He had everything. There's a boat out there. And so anyway, I was walking out the back door and going past that cabbage patch, to go down the alley to get to Line Street to go to school. And I thought, oh, they all look like dolls. And, that was in my mind, and I'd tell people, they just look like little heads. And I thought, boy, I had something there. I'd be Cabbage Patch doll.
You could have been a millionaire by now.
I know. I thought, oh, they just looked, they was in rows. And I thought, probably they're leafy heads. I don't know. But I tell you, my life has been funny.
Well, that's grand.
But anyway, and then he had everything that you'd want, that you could save for the winter. I don't know how people got along, because they had ice boxes. And probably at that time, maybe they didn't even have ice boxes. There'd be the ice on the cellarway on a shelf there or something, and the bottom was all full of crates of potatoes for all winter.
Wow.
And cabbage and everything. And I thought, how did people live? Now their backyards are barbecue places to have barbecues and parties, and you don't see anything unless you see a victory light garden somewhere, and that's kind of out of place. But that's what backyards were for. I think everybody had gardens. And then my dad had bought pear trees, young, and stuff, and we ended up with pears and apples and plums, and he had grapevines, 2 or 3 things of grapevines, out there. Everything was there, and I thought, they did their thing, but I didn't. That's just the way I lived.
Right, you didn't know.
I didn't know any different.
Right. So did you have an automobile growing up?
No.
Not at all?
No, and I think my dad drank, and he shouldn't have did it anyhow.
Okay.
But they were just coming in to do. My uncles, my mother's brothers had cars, but they were Model Ts, Model A's, and they were just starting. And there was probably horse and buggies a couple years before I was born. That was, even funeral homes, I think they had those, even where that place is now where they eat and stuff there by Smith's,
Oh,
Well, that used to be stables.
Really?
That is where they used to keep their hearses there, everything in that.
Wow.
And maybe it's changed a little, but I mean, that's, what do they call that?
They call it Carriage House.
See?
Yeah.
Carriage.
Well, isn't that something? That's cool.
Yeah, so it wasn't. More people didn't have cars than did. It was
So
just coming in.
a lot of people just
And I
walked.
remember there was one of the teachers that lived 2 houses on the other side of the alley from us. They had a car, and so at noon, if it was raining or something, the teacher's wife would drive to school for her kids, and they would bring us home. That was something in the rain.
Oh, that was something.
And then, I don't know where he ended up, superintendent or something. He lived across the street from us, and I babysat for their kids all the time. But yeah, everything's so much different. And you think of the old, there wasn't any carpet sweepers. They had the push kind. Fuller Brush had put out one that had the bristles on it, and stuff. But most people used brooms. And in the summertime, you'd take your carpet out and put it on either on the ground or if it hung over a clothesline and beat it with a carpet beater. Who would think, to get the dust out of stuff.
Well, what kind of, you're talking about cleaning carpets and everything, you obviously no dishwasher, so what kind of chores do you have brothers and sisters?
I had 2 sisters. There was 3 girls. And my mother wouldn't let us do it. She says, no, one of these days you'll be doing this.
Well, a bonus.
And I thought, and the neighbors down there, the 2 sisters, one was washing 1 week and one was drying. And I would question different things. And she says, no, this is my job. And she said, one, you'll have to do it, but I don't know. And she finally got a washing machine. I can remember using a scrub board. And you had to heat the water on a wood stove in the kitchen. You put your wood in and kept it warm. And you put that big old copper broiler thing. It was oval. And you fill it with water and heat it and dip it over to the sink to do dishes. Stuff it wasn't like you turned on something. And if you wanted water to wash your hands or something, you had to use a pump because it came from a cistern. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's how you live.
Think, my golly, if you wanted a chicken, you had to go probably to a farm or somewhere, and you had to hang it on the clothesline, cut its neck and bleed it out, and dip it in scalding water and take the feathers off. I remember my granddad doing that up on the corner there on Chauncey and North Street, and I thought, and I used to watch my grandmother cut up a chicken. Oh, I'll never be able to do this. And she says, oh, you will. And made their own sauerkraut, they have those big jars, with the lids. And she said, now don't open that now. They'd have it just setting out. Isn't that crazy?
Well, see how far things have
I
progressed,
know, it's
you
just
know.
so crazy when you sit and you think, oh my heavens, and how much it took to get a meal. There was, and just after the war was cake mixes, and Crisco came out. They gave free samples of Crisco and stuff, and even laxative. They give it to you. Well, nowadays it'd be terrible for kids.
Oh my goodness,
You
yes.
know, in chocolate. It's a wonder I wasn't out cleansed. Oh Lord, but you know, it is funny. My voice is bad because of the operation I had, you know, on my neck just, about 6 years ago or something. And they had to connect stuff different.
Oh.
They said it was a wonder I could talk after.
Oh my.
But I didn't know that, so I just started talking.
Whoa.
They'd have told
Just
me.
get a drink anytime you need to. But
Well,
what about doctors then? What?
Oh, Dr. Pence is the one that brought me in the world. And he said and that was on Christmas Day, and he had to come up there to Chauncey Street. I was born in that house right there.
Right in your
In my
parents' house.
grandparents'
In your
house.
grandparents'
When I was
house.
4 years old, I went down to the other house where we lived all my life, and my youngest sister was born in that house. But my
Okay.
older sister and me was born up there, you know, on the grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm.
But what was I saying?
Oh, and the doctor came right to.
Oh, probably did, you know. And I was born in that front bedroom up there, and when he was still in business when I was in school. I got the sore throat, and I had to go to him to have my throat painted or something. And he said, "I remember you," he said. And anyway, and he said, when you were born, he said you had dark hair, and I met it under your chin.
Oh.
And I had heard that before, but never from the horse's mouth.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think, my golly, what must that? He said, you just looked like a black cook or
Oh.
cow or something. You know, and I thought, oh, I don't know.
And were there several doctors in town,
There
or was
Dr.
it?
Pence, and there was Nolt. I think Glenn my husband was named after him, Verlin Nolt. I think that was his name. And I think that's who he was named after. Maybe he had been the doctor for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Pence and Nolt, and I don't know.
So then the hospital hadn't been built yet.
There was no hospital.
There was no hospital when you were
No,
young.
and then they built that one that's down
Over on
from
Oak
town.
Street.
No,
Oh, the Linville.
yeah,
They're on
Linville, Clint,
Van Buren. Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I got my tonsils taken out when I was 4 years old. I remember going in there and saying, I don't want to go in there. And my mother says, well, when you get out of here, well, we'll go and buy you a book. We'll go to the dime store and get you a book. I still got that book upstairs. But I remember trying to put the mask on me, the ether,
Oh, uh-huh.
and fighting, but I got over it some way.
Yeah, because they just
Yeah.
put ether on a little mask and put it over your
Yeah,
face. It
and I
wasn't
was
like
fighting. I
now.
remember that, but they got it on because I don't remember.
Because you don't remember the tonsillectomy.
And I got the picture of the day I went there, you know, how I looked. I don't know.
Were there any dentists in town?
There was two dentists. I went to Dr. Kenner, I guess his name was. And I don't know who the other, there was a Brenneman, but I don't think he was a dentist.
Mm.
I seen there's the name Brenneman
On the highway,
the
yeah.
highway out there, and I don't know what that was. But there was a Brenneman that lived on our street too.
Mhm.
Most of the teachers, a lot of the teachers, lawyers and stuff lived on Chauncey Street.
Mm-hmm. So what did your father do?
He was a laborer, but after we moved to that house away from the grandparents, he had worked at a foundry and had a pretty good job, and then it showed that that was the recession, or the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I was born during a depression, and now there's one.
Yeah.
You know, But yeah, so then he went to work with his dad to be the plasterer.
Ah, okay.
That's what he did.
Okay, so, and your maiden name?
Was Alice Trout.
Trout?
Trout, yeah.
Okay. And then what was your dad's name?
Was Homer.
Homer?
Trout, yeah.
I think I remember reading something.
What?
I'll have to go back and look through the Historical Society bulletins. That name sounds familiar.
Well, isn't there a Trout out there at the schools? Got something to do with the school now, I see. Does he hold some kind of a thing?
Oh, John. Yeah. Okay. So then, when your kids were growing up around here, they went to Thorn Creek,
Yes.
and that's not there anymore either. Now, was it a high school at that point, or did they go into town for the high school?
They went to town for the high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was funny. I had a dream, and it was when I was young, because I was sleeping in the upstairs, and I remember, and I thought, oh, everybody's going to school, but they're walking over this way. They're not going to that school. They're going over there. That school's there, and everybody was going over there past Washington Street. And I thought, well, that's a crazy thing. That's never going to happen.
Yeah,
and
now they're going to close that one.
I don't know how old I was, but I thought, oh. And then I had another crazy dream. And, all kinds of shoes was at my end of my bed. They had this sign written, some of them was red, and some of them was the new ones. They had I can't even think of the heels now, what do they call them? When there's no heel like.
Oh, okay, just flats, yeah.
Well, not even that, but where it's filled in for the thing. Well, isn't that crazy? I can't remember. But anyway, I thought, and when I woke up, they weren't there. That was real. And I thought, but that was in my head then by.
And were there, I know in like your daughter's time that there were shoe stores uptown. When you were growing up, did you were there shoe stores, or did you have to go to a clothing store, or?
Yeah, and there was White's. You probably heard of White's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and my feet were so small that I had to get them out of the showcase, the samples.
Oh my!
Because they were tiny, and so I got the best looking shoes. But they would have to go to that and get what if I seen something and I went in. Yeah, that was White's. Always went there.
Okay. What about restaurants in town? Were there?
There was Ionson's, I think, or something was a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. I think that Ionson's. They lived up where the record place is there on 9th Street. The family that owned Ionson's.
Mm-hmm.
If you know where it is there on 9th Street, where you go in to get your VCRs and stuff today.
Oh, where Family Video is.
Yeah.
I remember when they tore that
used to
brick
be a
house
hill,
down.
and there was a red brick house
Mm-hmm.
there. And that family. I used to go over there with my sled and go down that in the winter because the highway wasn't busy,
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a dairy up there, Columbia Dairy,
Mm-hmm.
was on up the street. And I used to go up there and watch them make cottage cheese and stuff because they had a window there where you could watch them do different things. And,
How neat.
Yeah, the dairy. And when you wanted milk, the milkman would come to your door.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd set your bottles out, and then he would have you thing of milk and leave what you wanted. In the winter, the cream would come to the top and break the top open. It would be like a paper, like
Mm-hmm.
a cardboard cap on it,
Mm-hmm.
just pushed in. And then, oh boy, did I ever like to get that. I got the devil because I would take that cream and eat it. There's another one. And I think the cats liked it too. Any cat that would have been around. But yeah, they had the milkman, and then on Sunday, the Sunday paper. they would have a push cart, wooden sided wheelbarrow, only it was flat, you know, and they'd just come and yell about the paper and stuff, and you'd go out and buy your paper.
Neat.
I don't know, just so much different.
Way
Everybody,
different.
it does take a village.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody, you could leave your doors open. You just put your screen door on, you know, you have a screen door, and you never thought about locking your doors. And now, you know, you can't even step outside and somebody come in another door. So. But yeah, it was just free. You were free then. Didn't owe your soul to the company store, I guess you'd say, or something. But yeah, that was freedom. And you could almost do what you wanted as long as you didn't break a law. And then they didn't catch you half the time.
What about the police or the firemen? Was it a lot of people, or was it just like a town marshal, or?
I don't know. I never had that.
You never had to deal with them?
No, there was truant officers in your neighborhood or something. A truant officer that would, you know, if you got out of line, you know, they would take care of your family problem.
Wow.
And, you know, the police was, you know, just respected everybody. You didn't, I don't know, it was just better. People knew right from wrong, and if they didn't, you'd hear about them.
Yeah, right. So do you know if there was a fire department, or if it was all volunteer maybe at that point?
I don't know, really.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
It's all in there, but it doesn't make sense.
Oh.
I don't know. It just, things were so different, you know, the way you'd keep house, and the way there wasn't any packaged stuff. You had to make everything, use your flour and sugar and everything, and there wasn't nylon at that time, so you wore silk stockings, and then, you know, and then it changed to nylon stockings because of the war, and the parachutes had to be the nylon. There wasn't, you know, plastic dishes or anything like that.
No
Every
paper plates that
doll
you
and
could
stuff was
cheat.
like pressed wood or something, you know, I don't know what they called it. And just things is just different.
What about toys? What were your favorite toys? Just play in school, or I mean, did you have dolls or chalkboards or?
Yeah, and favorite was the chalkboard that come down like a desk.
Oh.
You know, tripod-like, you know, and then you could pull it down like a desk or stand up and be your blackboard. And then the back of it had a roller thing where you could learn your ABCs and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was in the dining room back in the corner, and that was my corner. I don't know. I can't remember my sisters doing such things or even using it. I wonder if I took over.
Oh, maybe so.
I don't know. I remember in that room where I used to have them come to embroider things and stuff. One morning my mother came and she says, "You got to get out of here. Your sister, Evelyn, my youngest sister, she needs to have, you know, a chance." And I was like my whole world collapsed because it happened all at once. Get out of here! Just let her in here. Oh, I don't know. And when I get with my sister, she lives in Illinois, and we talk, and she doesn't remember a thing that I do.
Oh,
when
no.
we talk, everything is completely different. She was born in 1930, and I was born in 26. And I remember when we first moved to this house on the other side of the street. My sister must have started school that year. Maybe that's why they moved from there. But anyway, and my youngest sister was just born. And I remember my sister starting out for school. And I remember running after her and saying, you know, Brian, I want to go to school too. Well, you can't go. No, you're not old enough. I followed her clear out to the sidewalk in on the front. She was going to walk down Chauncey Street and then go straight over to school. So, but I do remember that. So, I don't know. maybe you can put all this together in some way that makes sense.
Oh, you're doing just fine.
I don't know.
Just fine.
I don't know.
Well, if that's all you've got for today, we will tell you definitely thank you.
Well, I don't know what you're thanking me for.
Oh, this is grand.
Oh, there's so much, but it's so different. They think of change now, and you can really tell it too. It affects, like the computers. There wasn't even telephones here at the lake when they moved here.
Really?
And Dr. Herder says, well, you need a phone out there. So he said, I'm in touch with the senator. He said, I think you better just get in touch with him. But we didn't, but we finally did get a phone. And I don't know, it was just another world, really.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember getting your first TV?
Yes, we were one of the first ones to get one, and all the neighbors around on Line Street would come to our dining room.
Oh.
And we'd, be like a party all the time, because they didn't have things
Mm-hmm.
and that darn thing caught a fire. It was a Zenith. We'd bought it from the guy in Larwell that sold things at that time. And it caught a fire. It had tubes in the back.
Mm-hmm.
They'd burn out. Well, anyway, it caught a fire, and we got it on the porch and stuff. We placed that. I still had the base of it for a long time, because it was just a square table, but it has swivel.
A swivel, yeah.
And so I kept that for a long time. I think I still kept the part that moves. It's sticking somewhere, but I got rid of the table.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then, we've always had television. And the first one I ever seen was just a little tiny thing. We went out to Trip Ponies, Glenn's friend lived out of South Whitley, and we went to their house, and he had just that little one. You could barely see anything. Oh. But we were one of the first ones to have a regular-sized television here on Line Street before we moved here at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sandra was in, pretty good on it, from the time that it started to when they had all the programs,
Mm-hmm.
For kids and stuff.
Before that, you listened to the radio, maybe?
Yeah, it was the radio and our record player.
Mm-hmm.
I got so many old records, it's terrible. I think they're still stored out in the garage here. But I bought me a new player just for that,
Mm-hmm.
for those records. It's in there and I don't use it. But it's an old case, and a nice thing, just so you could. So. But...
well, who were some of your favorite musicians back when you were first married?
Lombardo and I don't know, all of them. And they used to come to Fort Wayne, and we'd go to see them
Mm-hmm.
over there. And besides that, I guess I was into wrestling for a while. I don't know what was the matter with me then. Because of Glenn, I got into it, and we went over to the armory there. They'd have wrestlers come there. I think my voice might have went with that. I was so into it and just crazy. That's really not me. But my sinuses are dripping.
Oh, get your drink.
Anyway, this is terrible. I've been trying to get this to happen. I guess it's because I sit here quiet all the time. If there's nobody to talk to.
Sure.
But anyway, I don't know.
Alrighty, well, we're going to head back to the library, and we certainly appreciate you talking to us today. This has been really good.
Stupidity one of these days.
Oh, it's not stupid. We got a lot of good history here, so thank you very much.
Well.